Kaboom. I definitely gave you multiple choice. There you go. Okay. Look how great this question is. It says the production rate of the cola, which is how fast it's being made. So right away, before we go any further, that's the rate they're making it. So the integral of it is how much they've made in that time period, right? Not total, just in that time period. And the derivative of it is going to be something per hour squared, gallons per hour squared. Always think about units, okay? Up and down that ladder. Anyway, which best approximates the total number of gallons? So just looking at the units. The function we have, the graph, is gallons per hour. They're asking us how many gallons. We need to integrate this function. Okay? I don't know what function that is, so the best I can do to integrate it is find the area underneath the curve. You can do it a couple ways, but do you see that this is going to be kind of like a triangle situation here? See that big triangle sitting there? But it's also this rectangle down here, the big rectangle sitting here. That's the total area under that curve. You can cut it up however you want, but that's two big shapes. So the area of that whole rectangle is 24 by 100, which is 2,400. The area of the triangle is 1/2 the base, 24, times the height, which is only 200, right? So that also happens to be 2,400. Now, a mistake I made earlier, which I know doesn't happen often, but I made a mistake. They asked a question similar to this, but they said they had already made a certain amount or something like that. So I thought the answer was just 4,800. And it is, in this case, it is 4,800, right? It doesn't tell us. But in a previous question, it said they already made this much or something. How much is there now? So you got to remember, add that original amount if they ask it like that, okay? Just make sure you're reading. I was trying to rush. Make sure you're reading the questions. But the answer to this is 4,800. All right, good? Okay. We've actually done this question before. If you're ever confused about a table question, and this one's a little confusing, you should graph what they're giving you and see what's going on a little bit, okay? But here's the main point. They're not telling me the value at 0. They want f of x equals 0 to have one solution. What does that mean the graph does? F of x equals 0. That's his x-intercept. It has one x-intercept. And the place where it does it, r, is negative. Cool? So I need a graph that hits the axis back here like that. Make sense? That's what that says to us. So let's put the table into perspective here. -1, 2 is right here. We don't know what 0 is, but I know what 1. I'm at -2. So you can see this graph is going to go through the x-axis, right? Now, they're not asking me for the root. They're asking me for the y value at 0, which is weird. They're throwing different stuff at you here. So let's just, even if they don't know what to do here, I guess, like, take the answer choices and guess and check. If the b value, the y value is 3, that means it's up here. That make sense? Does that force us to have an x-intercept? Again, the x-intercept has to be negative, which means the x-intercept has to hit it back here somewhere. Do I have to go through there? Not at all. It goes up and comes back down again. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So that's not what I want. If the y value is 2, same thing. I can just go right across there and go down. If the x-intercept is 1, or the y-intercept is 1, same thing. I don't have to have a negative root. Okay? It definitely cannot be 0, which some kids choose because they see f of x equals 0. Because if it's 0, then b would have to be 0. Right? I mean, r would have to be 0, which it can't be. It has to be negative. So the only possibility is that my y-intercept has to be -1 because it has to go down through here and hit there. So see how drawing a table or drawing the graph makes it a lot easier to look at, hopefully. All right. And last but not least, number 9. They're asking you, you might see one question like this on the AP test where they ask you to do a Riemann sum by hand. All right. We want to integrate this function. We did several of these from 0 to 2 with 4 subintervals, which means how big is each interval going to be? 1/2. Something you can do is just graph it out and see what it looks like. You don't have to. 9 to the x is an exponential function. It's doing that. From 0 to 2, we have to split it up into 4 intervals. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool? Because we're doing a right Riemann sum, my first interval is from 0 to a half, right? That's a base of a half. And the y value there is the y value at a half. That's a terrible rectangle, but what's the y value of 9 to the x at a half? 3. 9 to the 1/2 power is 3. Right? Right. So it's a half times 9 to the 1/2. That's just 3. My first rectangle. Plus. My next rectangle is a half times the y value at 1. That's 9. Plus a half times the y value at 3/2. Please keep in mind, 9 to the 3/2 is the same thing as the square root of 9 cubed. That's what that means. It's also this, the square root of 9 cubed. This is easier to do, kids. Take the square root first and then cube it. Okay? If you cube it first and take the square root, you get bigger numbers. You don't want to do that. The square root of 9 is 3, cubed is 27. Plus 1/2 times the y value at 2, which happens to be 81. Awesome. We just got to add them all together. Okay? Rather than putting a half on each of them already, because it's going to make decimals, fractions, whatever, I'm going to put the half out front and just add together all these y values. So 3 and 9 make 12. 12 and 27 make 39. And 39 and 81 make 120. 1/2 of that, so 60. Okay? But, great.